Alright, so welcome to the stream. This is my first stream yet. And pretty much what I'm going to be going over is my macro Bitcoin perspective, so what I think is going to happen over this bear market. Low time frames, that's like 4 hour and below, that perspective what I see Bitcoin doing there. I'm going to go over ETH, SOL, and probably some plays I'm in. So hype is a really big one. And then after that, I'll be open up to chart some coins of your choice. So do you have any questions before we begin? Yeah. Alright, so here I've got my macro Bitcoin chart. It's the weekly. And as you can see, it's looking pretty shit, to be fair. On this weekly candle, we've just rejected from this SR. So this SR has been flipped to resistance. And pretty much everything boils down to support and resistance. That's like 99% of my TA. Everything happens based off support and resistance lines. So all of these supply demand lines, they're all confluenced to my support and resistance. So support and resistance is just the bread and butter. Now, this might look a bit confusing at first, but you can see we've lost this trend line. Structure is bearish, of course, because we're in a bear market. But essentially from here, I think this is a key support. This 76k, 76, 78k. Oh, yeah, 78k. If we manage to break above it, flip it to support, then I'm going to be looking for higher. So probably about 86 to 93k. This zone here. That's if we break above. But for now, we've just rejected it to resistance. Although I guess you could say this was the flip. So we've rejected from resistance. So that means I'm going to be looking for lower. So this will be a good place to short. Okay. Now, in terms of targets for the bear, you can see that we're pulling off a bear flag here. If I get the technical targets of this bear flag, the highs to the lows, you can see that it lines up pretty nicely to this demand zone here, which is about 50 to 40k. So altogether, that's where I think price is going to go before we get a move up. So what I think is we're going to have a slow grind up until about like summer, autumn time. Have a slow grind. We're going to consolidate here before we have a move up. So that will be at about summer or autumn time. Let's see if I can draw that better. Yeah. Okay. Now that's what I think about it. So pretty much what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be buying at... Well, there's two things that you can do. You could either buy at key levels of support. If I bring up a fresh chart, you can look at key levels of support. So here's one. Say there's another. Actually, no, let's make that lower. Say this is another one. This is another one, so on and so forth. Just keep buying at these levels and selling when it pushes higher. So for example, my average, as you can see on this chart, my average price is here at 73k, nearly 74k. I've just sold half of my bags at 78k because I bought out support, sold a resistance. That's half of my spot bags. And the other half I'm looking to sell at about 86, 85k. So altogether that will be, that's a 20% move. And if it does get to 86k, that's going to be a 35% move. And essentially what that lines up with is, if I find the chart, I think it's this one. Nope. This one, there you go. You can see here we have higher high, higher low, higher high. We broke below the higher low, formed a lower low, and now if we go back up, we see a Quasimodo pattern. And that is essentially a type of reversal pattern, which not many people use. My mentor called Arschmeister, he introduced this, so like Tom, who else is in it? Yeah, Tom knows about it. I don't know if anyone else knows. But yeah, this is the one. Oh yeah, Conrad. Yeah, Conrad knows about it. So that is essentially why I'm selling out about 86k, because that is the start of it. But if we do get a move up and we do flip this to support, I'll be looking to sell higher. Yeah, he probably knows it too. But I don't think he's in here just yet. Maybe he'll join, maybe he won't. Alright. So yeah, is there anything else I wanted to add? So yeah, like 50, 40k, that's where I think... yeah, 50, 40k, that's where I think price is going to go. I'm fairly certain most of you, yeah, use the GOAT. Fairly certain most of you probably agree with it. Is there any questions about this so far? Okay, I guess we're good to go. Alright, I think this is my chart. Yep. Alright, so now on a 4 hour, we can see, actually if I bump up to the daily, we have an order block here. I guess you can call it a demand zone, so I mean, the supply zone on a lower time frame, but the higher the time frame, the better. We've got an order block here. Price tapped into it. You can see bumped up to 878k. This is where I sold my bags, half of them at least, and it bumped lower. You can see here we've got a resistance. It should be red, and it bounced lower. You can see that this is a key level of resistance here. We bumped up into the order block, went down lower, so we had a bit of a deviation here because we didn't properly flip it to support. So we broke out of the resistance, didn't flip it to support, closed below, and this looked like it's going to be a flip to resistance. Well, it still is resistance because it wasn't a flip to support. So if we manage to close below this, that could be a short trigger for... Just get rid of these drawings. Or lower, stops should be above support, somewhere there. And you can target down here. So that's a 3.4 hour trade. You should take profit at levels of support. So here's one, here's another one, here's another one. And then you can have your final TP here. That's one valid play that you can take. And of course you can DCA up here, if you so wish. Now back here, I mentioned that we did sweep these highs temporarily. It was a very, very minor sweep. You can see the highs here. We went about $30 above before we went back down. And if you waited for a candle close on the 4 hour to the lows, that would have given you a 2.2 hour trade. So this is what we like to call a swing failure pattern. And that is when we have price going up, or ranging. It can be either. It's best played in ranges, so I'll just say that. So we go up, make a range. This range has a wick. Keep going up, and then go up here. Let's say this wick closes, wicks above the top of this wick here, and then the candle body itself closes below the height of the wick. That is a short trigger. So you take a short on the candle close, it will be a market play. Stops above the wick, and then you just target lower. That is a really nice thing to take. It could be both highs and lows, it doesn't matter. Here we've got highs, but then here you've also got lows. Usually it's best played on swing highs and swing lows, but internal highs and internal lows can also be done. So as you can see here, that also worked out. Usually you want to go, when you see it, you want to go on a lower time frame, because something like this, for example, this wick here, it doesn't have the risk to reward. So if you lower the time frame, you can see that we wicked and then closed above. So you can see the risk to reward is much better this way. And you push higher. So to the highs, that would have been a 7.7 R trade. But yeah, altogether on the low time frame, I think we push lower. I think this is just like a little move up, a little quick deviation to flip all the SRs to resistance, fill this order block, and then we're going to go lower. I don't think we see 85, 86, but it's possible. And like I said, I'm just waiting for the 78k resistance to be flipped to support for that. But until that happens, I'm going to be looking for lower. Yeah, but it's possible but hard, yeah, like you said. Yeah, you can see we're resistant from this, we're resistant from the resistance. Rejecting from the resistance, there you go. And yeah, I think we're going to push lower. Now, down here, you can see, this is what I like to call a rising wedge. I'm just highest 8k. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I mean, for now, we're going back down, starting to go back into the resistance. Starting to flip everything back to resistance, so in my eyes, I reckon this might have been the top and we're going to go down. I'd begin sizing bigger in a short start 79k, won't be entering anything low. 79k. Yeah, honestly, but the thing for me is, if I go on a high time frame, just delete this note before it starts pissing me off. Once we do flip this to support, there's really nothing that's stopping us up until about 85k. There is pretty much nothing but thin air up until then. So I guess you might have like a minor little resistance here. But up until like 80, 84, 85k, there is literally nothing but thin air. So if we do manage to flip 78k, I'll be looking for 84, 85k, which is where I'm going to sell the rest of my bags, if I can. If I can't, then oh well, I'm just going to buy lower. I've already sold half of them already, so... Like I said, the bear, if any of you are following my ex, the bear is literally just accumulation, trying to get like as many coins as you can. Well, not coins, but like the highest position you can, pretty much. So I'm gonna focus on like the top 10 coins, so that's like Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, those types of stuff. Gonna be looking for some like, because the thing about it is, the coins that came out about like 2 cycles ago, 3 cycles ago, they're not going to perform as well as the coins that look good and they came out about like last cycle, this cycle. They just won't perform as good. So essentially I'm going to be looking for those types of coins to invest into on a high time frame. And a high time frame for me is like a year, over a year. And yeah, like Thor. Guess I sound like Thor. All right. Well, that's what I think for this. And anyway, like I was saying about the Rising Wedge, you can see down here, I wanted to talk about this in the stream because it will link to something nicely, that we have now on Hype. We have a Rising Wedge pattern here. So a Rising Wedge is also a reversal pattern. Well, it doesn't have to be a reversal pattern, but essentially it's bearish. That's the thing of it. Now, this here, I didn't pull this out of my ass. This is from these highs to these lows. Just make that a bit more precise. Technical targets for a rising wedge is from the beginning of it. If you get the highs to the lows and put it to the candle break, so where it breaks down from it, the technical targets are from there. And you can see went to the technical targets nicely and pushed higher. So that's a nice little thing. You can see that there's also a support line now, but here flip to resistance, then broke above, flip to support, we ran higher. So there was a couple of long opportunities you could have taken. And yeah, that's virtually it for Bitcoin. Now if we go over to ETH, you can see ETH is at resistance right now. We've just rejected from it. Oops. Just rejected from support. Resistance. Now, on a high time frame, it looks like ETH wants to go lower. I'm not going to be too excited about it until we break above this resistance, flip it to support, like always. Until that happens, I'm not going to be bullish on this coin. Everyone's like calling for longs, how ETH is going to blow up. I just keep making fun of them on my X. And yeah, until this resistance doesn't get flipped, I'm going to be looking for lower. But we do also have this trend line, which I guess could be a bear flag. So if you take technical targets this, get it from there. The technical targets will be about $800, which I doubt it goes all the way down there. But it's just technical targets. Alright. Now from here, you can see it bounce nicely from this order block / like demand zone. I guess you can call it a demand zone. Bounced nicely from there, gave us a push up. So if you bought in from this demand zone, that would have given you a 32% move, 31% move from the top. As you can see, it got filled in completely. So if you DCA, that would have dropped your entry about like there. That would have given you a 38% move. And yeah, if we do get a move up and we flip this to support, our next target for it will be 2.8k, which will be a 20% move. But yeah, like I said, for now, I think this goes probably lower, or I think we're going to visit about 1700, 1600, this kind of area before we go higher. Now, if we do get fibs, you can see that bounce from the golden pocket here. So the golden pocket is the 61A and the 66 fib. Give me 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. Oh shit, just close the chat. Alright. But yeah, altogether, ETH on a higher time frame doesn't look too interesting yet. It's still just rejecting from the resistances. This is a coin that I'm definitely going to be accumulating. So every support I buy. So I bought this demand zone. I'm still holding it. I've sold a portion of it up here, but I'm definitely going to be looking to rebuy. And yeah, it's like I said, on a high time frame, doesn't look that interesting. Now, on a daily, you can see that the structure is bullish. So you can see if I go to a line chart, we are pulling in lower high, higher low, and we've just made a higher high. So it wouldn't be insane to say that it could break the resistance. It wouldn't be insane to say that. But in my eyes, there's more confidence for us to push lower than higher. And yeah, especially if we get a breakdown of this trend line, flip it, then we're definitely going to be going lower. Now if we go down again, and by the way, this is something that you want to be doing yourself when you're trying coins. You want to be starting off from a high time frame, marking out all the key support zones, resistance zones, looking at the market structure, seeing what the coin looks like, and then just gradually going down the time frames, marking out stuff that you see. Let's get rid of these. Now, on a lower time frame, you can see we've just bounced from support. We have a mini little range forming here. So if you're playing this range, this would probably be what you'd go with. And that's one thing that's going on now. There is most of the coins in the market right now putting off some nice ranges. So you could long here to the highs, take profit at mid-range, which would happen to be about here. First take profit here, second take profit up there, and then just keep doing that, rinse and repeat. Now you could put stops above this wick here. I wouldn't put them all the way up there because that just gets rid of the risk to the rewards altogether to the lows. That would be a 0.8 trade. So I definitely wouldn't be doing that. You could put the wicks above this. That would be a 2-hour trade similar to this. Could do it here, but that's a riskier trade, so I'd probably put them up here. And yeah, so from here you just keep playing the range until broken. And when it breaks, either to the upside, you're gonna be looking for a flip, and then you can long off that flip, stops below the mid-range, and look for higher. Same with the lows, if it breaks down the lows, which is what I think is going to happen. Once it flips it to resistance, it stops above the mid-range, and you look for lower. That is the safest way to play it. You could have breakout trades, so for example, this move here, you would have missed it by waiting for a flip to support. But then you can see that this was just a deviation from the range. So if you want to be a breakout trader, you go on a lower time frame. Looks like we didn't get it, but essentially you'd go on a lower time frame. Well, to be fair, you could have known it. As soon as we got a break above, you mark it long and look for higher, and then put your stop loss below some sort of minor resistance on a lower time frame, which would line up to be here. So you can see resistance, support. That is a good zone. That would have given you a 2.3R move. So altogether that is about 3%, which is not bad for a 5-minute play. Yeah, like I said, for now, just play the range until broken. There's 4 ways to play it. You can just keep playing this, but keep note of the fact that every time that it bounces, so for now we've had 1, I count these 2 together as one touch. So we've had 1 touch, 2 touches, 3. I guess you could count that as a touch, 4, 5. So each of these touches, this support here is getting weaker and weaker. So the more that you play it, you want to reduce the position size because it's getting weaker, so the odds of it breaking it are getting higher and higher. Same with the resistance. Yeah, more touches the weaker it gets, yep. So, I forgot what coin it was, but I saw someone, I think it might have been in the server, might have been a different one. I saw an analyst pretty much short the shit out of a coin that was like at resistance, even though the resistance got touched about like 25 times. And he pretty much just got fucked instantly. It bounced from it like for a tiny like 3% move, bounced from it slightly, and then just completely slammed up and stopped him out. But yeah, there's that. But yeah, like I said, I expect this to go down, and from then you can have this short, or if it goes up, you can take that long. Alright. Now, if you look lower, if you remember from the daily, the structure is bullish. So if you go down, looking for lower to take longs wouldn't be a completely dumb idea. So essentially just mark out your support and resistance lines. This would be one. Now you can see here, my trading view is tweaking out today. So we have this trend line up. You could also play off this trend line, to be fair. So if we get a move down, flip it to resistance, you can short from there. That'll be confluence for also breaking the range. So that'll be an extra confluence for that. Play that lower. If you want a high time frame, it's nothing really that interesting going on up there. Just pretty much go where the most confluence is. So for example, I've got an SR here. There's an order block. Set limits for a long down here. Stops below. And aim for higher. You can aim for that resistance. That'll be a 4-hour trade if it goes to full TP. That's one valid trade. But yeah, like I said, ETH doesn't look that good for now. At least in my opinion. You could also play off this trend line here altogether. So since we're pretty much in a bear flag here, I guess you could call it a bear flag. Although this has only had, if you go on a high time frame, it's only had 2 touches, so we'll see how it goes. If we break this trend line, you'll be looking to go lower, so you could short it, stops above here, and aim for lower. And yeah, that pretty much covers my thoughts on ETH. Now on to Sol. Now, on a high time frame, we've lost this key support. I mean resistance. Yeah, support. We've lost this key support. We flipped it to... Actually, I guess we didn't. I mean, yeah. I'll call this an SR. So we've lost this. We haven't yet flipped it to resistance properly. So if we do get a move up there, I would be definitely looking to short that. Especially with this nice little supply zone here. I'll definitely be looking to short that. Short it down to probably about here. Actually, maybe lower. Altogether, my targets for Sol are about $40 to $30. If we get that, then great. If we don't, then so be it. Support here. Resistance here. Yeah. So for now, this is our range. As I said, most coins are ranging. So you can keep playing that until broken out. So pretty much just long support. Short resistance. Now in terms of stops for this one, I'd put it above this candle here. So somewhere about there, makes sense. Yeah, keep doing that until the range is broken out. Ranges are fairly easy to trade. But the one thing you gotta know is if price is consolidating at the mid-range, you just leave it the fuck alone and don't do shit. Now, chop is my weakness and many other people's weaknesses that follow the same trading strategy that I have. So, Conrad, you can probably agree with it. When you see this type of stuff, yeah, this is when I lose the most amount of money. Like, this is where most of my trades go to shit because just chop is awful to trade. So yeah, at mid-range, you just want to leave her alone. That's pretty much it. If we can move up, sure that, yep. But since we are in a downtrend on a higher time frame, consolidation at support is bearish. So what I'm looking for is a move down. This is the more touches we get, the higher the odds are of a move down. And with the move down, we're going to have another supply zone here, which you could definitely short. Stops above the resistance and aim for lower. That's another trade you can take. Now, on a lower time frame, you can see we have an order block here. We've just bounced from it. Lines up nicely with the golden pocket. So bounce from that. That could have been a nice short stake. Stops probably above here. Aim for support. Nearly a 3-hour trade. Now, the thing about order blocks is they are valid up until 100% of the order block, not 100%, but about 90% of the order block is filled. So if we have a move up, we fill half of it, we can still move back down. If we go back into it, and we fill all of it, or like 90% of it, and then move back down, I would no longer play the order block. So from here on, the order block is not valid. That is universal for all order blocks. So I don't know if I can find an example. Probably not. Yeah, probably not. But that is how I play order blocks. Conrad probably plays order blocks the same exact way. But this is the way that I play them. Now, in terms of longs, a good trader always has a bullish perspective and a bearish perspective. So, my bullish perspective on this is if we go lower, a good place to buy would probably be if we go on a lower time frame. We have support here. And then support and resistance, remember, is just areas of most touch. So where price bounces or resists from the most. So you can see here we've got a bunch of touches, resistance, resistance, closed above, closed back below, flip to resistance, went below, resistance, 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 and then here we flipped it to support. Yeah, that's the way I was taught. Now flip to support, so yeah, that's just pretty much how you label them correctly. It's just areas of most touch. So the thing about technical analysis is it's very subjective. So every person can have different areas. So for example, someone else can say, oh yeah, this is resistance. But then I can say, no, resistance, that is support. But then I can say, this is support. So it's really subjective. So that's why every person has different charts. Because technical analysis is really subjective. But yeah, anyway, back to what I was saying. Down here, if you go from these lows to these highs, you can see you've got a 786 fib confluence with that. So I would probably take the long from the support line, stops below, aim for higher. If it goes back up there, which is where I've got a short open currently, if you look at my channel, that's probably where I would take my final TP and then ride it lower. Yeah, those are two trades you can take. Now, if you look at my other charts, you can see we have some sort of a bear flag here. Honestly, I'm not liking how it's consolidating at the trend line. But you could play off that as a sign that it's going to go back down to like $30 and $40, which is what I said my targets are for it. You can see another demand zone here, so that just goes to show how like you can mark out areas of support and resistance from here, and that's what a demand and supply zone is. It's just an area of support and resistance, in other words. It's just a type of support and resistance. And yeah, it just goes to show how strong they can be. So yeah, you can play off that, play lower. I personally wouldn't because I don't like this consolidation. But yeah, that's pretty much my outlook on Sol currently. I think this push is much lower. Gaijin. Going to zero, you think? Alright. Now, onto the coins that I'm currently in. We'll start off with hype. So, right over here, if any of you are following my ex, I said that hype will be having a move down very soon. Stuff happened. So yeah, hype will be having a move down pretty soon, which I'll be looking to position myself into shorts. And essentially where that assumption comes from is if we look at Bitcoin, I mean the Bitcoin pair of hype, you can see that we're pulling off a rising wedge, which is what I showed you on Bitcoin a while back. So we're pulling off a rising wedge pattern. Once we break below, this will probably dunk down if you take technical targets, which these are probably not going to be as reliable, won't tell you as much, simply because it's the Bitcoin pair. It shows us that it will go down to here, which lines up pretty nicely with a support line. Now, if any of you don't know what Bitcoin pairs do, it essentially just shows the strength of a coin in a way. So when the Bitcoin pair goes up, that means it's outperforming Bitcoin. If the Bitcoin pair is choppy, that means it's more or less the same strength as Bitcoin, so it's matching Bitcoin's moves. And when it goes down, that means it's underperforming Bitcoin. So essentially what I'm trying to say is this is a bearish pattern, and you can do TA on Bitcoin pairs. This is a bearish pattern. If we break below, which will be the confirmation of the rising wedge, flip it, that means odds are hype will be underperforming Bitcoin, which means for every dump Bitcoin has, hype will be dumping substantially more. And since we're in a bear market, Bitcoin looks like it's going to be going down. So that means hype is going to be going to shit sometime soon. Most likely. Now, let me just get rid of this. As you can see, hype is ranging for now, which, like I said, most coins are ranging. Now you can see here, this is another example of a swing failure pattern, or an SFP. Here's our swing low. Price wicked below here, and then closed above the wick. So this would have been your long entry, stops below here, and you aim for higher. Similarly, you can also long this, stops below the wick, and aim for higher. So both of these are valid. SFPs usually have a really nice risk to reward, which is why I love them so much. They're reliable and all of that. And now, oh yeah, I just realized I didn't go over the reason why they work. Essentially, the reason they work is, as you can see here, people long support and they place their stop losses below the wick, the swing lows or the swing highs. Now, essentially, what price then does is it goes down, takes out all of that liquidity that's here, stops everyone that's longing out, and then pushes back up. And essentially, the closure of this candle that's above, that's like the confirmation of the swing failure pattern. If it takes it and closes below, then that is not valid. But if it does, then that is a trade that you can take. That's pretty much the reason why it works. But yeah, same thing like I've always said. Short range high. Long range low. That's the SFP. Just keep playing it till it's broken. once we break below, which is what I think it's going to do based on the Bitcoin pair. You can short the range low, stops at about mid-range, which would be here. Stops above, and aim for lower. This is what I'm definitely going to be taking, and I'm going to announce it in my channel if we do manage to get it. So, if this does happen, expect to see it from me. But yeah, for now, we're stuck in a range, so essentially just play the range still broken. It could go up, it can go down, break below. Whatever happens, just trade based off that. But in terms of hype, yeah, I think it's been one of the biggest outperformers so far, because as you can see on the Bitcoin pair, it's been pumping and pumping and pumping. It just goes to show the strength. It's just been higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. But the fact that the higher highs and higher lows are getting tighter and tighter, that's the sign of a rising wedge. So I think the end of hype is going to be soon. And then we short it to zero, like Gaijin loves to do. But this time with confirmation, because Gaijin loves to short the strongest coins in the market. I dipped. Pussy. Alright. Now, I'm also in Inge, which as you can see, it's not, I'll be honest, it's not looking too good. Essentially, I went in light up here, hoping to get a flip of this to support, and then we can push up. But as you can see, we did not get that flip. We went down, flipped it to resistance, and now we're probably going to go lower. I'm going to wait for this candle to close. If we don't close above, then I'm probably going to cut this position and aim for something else to play. This could be a valid long if you want to take it. Stops below here. Pardon me. Stops below here. And aim for higher. You could aim for these wicks. But yeah, like I said, initially that was my thoughts on it. And yeah, we broke below the support, but we didn't really flip it. Support was still an SR, so we flipped it back to resistance. If we close below, it's probably going to go lower. This could be a valid long to take, TP1 at the resistance. And then yeah, you can play off that. If it doesn't work out, oh well. From my average is, I kind of did a whoopsie and I forgot to change my order. So I put in 40% of my position here instead of at the support, at the DCA. So my resistance is going to be, my average price is going to be much lower in terms of ULOT. So I'm only currently I'm only down about 1.8%. You all are probably down 3.5%. So it's not atrocious. That's probably about like a 0.3% hit on your portfolio if you took a 10% position size, which is what I did. So for me, that took a literal 0.1% hit of my total port. Yeah, this is one thing why I love spot plays. It's because of how safe they are. I know Gaijin definitely agrees. Okay. Now, if we look at Ave, what is that? There it is. Now, I was speaking to Cry about this earlier. Well, earlier, yesterday. And essentially what we're saying is after this hefty dump we had from the hack, was it a hack? Fairly certain it was. We had a massive sell-off, which you can see from this. Blasted through the support. Respected the order block slightly. If we go back on a lower time frame, you can see respected it slightly, went above. That would have been, if you played the long there, which I wouldn't have. Assuming you DCA'd, that would have put your entry about here. You would have got a 6.5% move, which is not shabby, considering a bearish structure. So it's not ultimately the worst, but yeah. Essentially what I was speaking about is, if we filled this, went above, and then closed above this support line, I would have definitely been buying spot backs here. But as you can see, we did not get that closure. It just dumped below. And now we're heading lower. This would be a valid trade to take, but with the fundamentals of this coin being absolutely fucking atrocious now, I probably wouldn't. So yeah, that's what I think on AVE. I think altogether this probably goes lower based on the structure of the coin, which is ultimately in TA there's only two things you need to know. You need to know support and resistance and market structure. That's all you need to know to be profitable. Support and resistance and market structure. So as you can see, all I've got here, if you ignore these two, all I've got is support and resistance lines. And with market structure, so let's start from here. You've got support, resistance, this one here. I'd probably put that there. There. Say that. Alright, can't be asked to draw anymore. But you can see, based on just support and resistance lines alone and market structure, sorry for that. Right, an ice cream van just decided to pull up. You can see we've got, and the line chart is really good for market structure. So you can see we've got low, high, so we've got high, a low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, didn't make a higher, another higher high. We've got a lower low here, higher low. So once we broke below this, that's a shit line. I'm now looking for shorts. So this would be your sign if you've got spot bags to sell those spot bags at resistance. So I'd probably sell them at this resistance here. So let's say if you bought from here, you'd be holding, and altogether, of course, you'd be taking profit when you're comfortable and at resistance. Altogether, that's a 147% move. Down here, I'd probably sell the rest of my bags, which would still be a 100% move. So that just goes to show the only things you need are support and resistance lines and market structure. Once you understand those, you can be a comfortably profitable trader. You don't need to overcomplicate your charts with like 50 different indicators and like 7,000 different zones to memorize. I trade with no indicators and just this with supply and demand zones as confluence too, and then sometimes fibs. Those are the only things I use. The only indicator I sometimes use is RSI for the divergences. Did we have one here? We actually did. There's your divergence. I usually use them on a 3-day. But like I said, I don't trade off them religiously like other people may do. I just use them as confluence for my trades. It's the same as fibs. For example, some people trade fibs religiously, like I don't know if any of you know him. There's this guy called Sapa in some other servers. He uses fibs religiously and he only trades based off those. I don't. I just use them as confluence. But yeah, hope that gets the point across. And that virtually sums up Eve, I think. Higher time frame, you can see pulling off lower lows. I mean lower highs. Lower lows too. There's your lower low, lower high, lower low, lower highs. This is probably gonna go lower. Yeah, Ave doesn't look that good in my books right now. And that sums up all of the coins that I wanted to cover. So are there any coins that you don't want tried out? Pengu. Alright. So, starting from a higher time frame. This coin has went to shit. Yes, we did at the start of the stream. I'll go over it again in a bit. We've got resistance, support. We're in a downtrend. But for now, it looks like Pengu's in accumulation. So if this keeps on going, this could be a good place to accumulate some Pengu, and we might get a move out. However, there is a distribution pattern that does happen, and essentially we break below. I forgot the name of it because I rarely ever use it, but we break below, fake out, and then just break above again and go higher. If any of you know the name of it. Yeah, it's something along the lines of that. Alright, but yeah, essentially on Pengu, just a short resistance down to support, long support to resistance, and take profit at your mid-range, which would happen to be there. Now on a lower time frame, if I just get another chart up, we've got a trend line. We've pulled off. Let's just zoom in a bit. Actually, I'll just drop this to make it a bit easier to understand. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, lower high, broke below, lower low. So that was your break of structure. And then also losing this trend line here, we flipped it. That could have been your short entry. He stops above somewhere there, aim for lower. Well, I guess you could do it here. That's one trade you could have taken. If we go back out, got support there. Resistance there that we've just rejected from here. So in my opinion, Pengu goes lower from here. On a higher time frame, it looks like a decent coin to accumulate, but I probably wouldn't be holding it long term because meme coins are fucking dog shit. There's shares that I don't want in my portfolio. And yeah. You could... Do we have that? You do. So as you can see, you just bounce from the golden pocket. We've got a quick order block as confluence here. So if you entered at the golden pocket, which I guess it's not that far away from it, so you could have done. You'd have to have DCA'd at the order block, stops below here. The risk to reward is completely atrocious, so I wouldn't have taken that. So you would have gotten a 1 hour move. So that would have been 5%, which is not too bad. But altogether, I'd be looking for shorts on this coin. So if we do get a move up, like for example here, we bounce from this order block. A 3.5% move, which is okay for the 4 hour. You can see we've filled half of it, so it's still valid. You can still play off it again, especially with this resistance still being intact. We've only had 1, 2 touches, so it's still valid. Full position size I usually use up until 3 touches, so the 3rd touch hasn't happened yet, so you can still very well play it if you do get it, which you might not. See, we rejected from here. Yeah, I'd be looking for lower on this gun, down to Spore again. So take any shorts that you can. That is one short you could have taken. If we do get a substantial move down, if you get enough of a move down, this looks like an order block that's brewing up. Oh, yeah. So you can take a short off that order block. Stops about there. And aim for lower. So that's what I think about that. This is still valid, but it doesn't have the confluence. Although the golden pocket can be used up to 2, up to twice. So once we get 2 touches from it, I personally wouldn't count the golden pocket as a confluence anymore. That's the same with the 786. But for now, this is still valid, so you could still technically play off this order block for longs if you want to. But like I said, the structure is shifted bearish, so I'd go in with reduced position size. That's what I think about that. Alright, any other coins? Oh yeah, so I forgot about so. So, also ranging, we have a little cheeky. There's a deviation from the range here. This was a valid short to take. How's this? I'll just post this chart in the chat. I can't send it in the chat. So I'll just post this afterwards and then you can take a look at it if you want. Or once I upload the video, you can take a look back at it. Alright, and then are there any other coins that you want to try out? yeah, starting from next week, I'm gonna get into the habit of posting all of these charts that I've charted out into the chat or on my channel, so you can just take a look back at them. Are there any other coins? If not, then we'll just stop here. Alright. Any questions altogether? Nah. Isn't this the one that dumped massively? Nah, it's something else. Which one was the coin that had like a massive dump yesterday? Is it in here? Oh, I think it was Siren. Yeah, it was Siren. Yeah, to be fair. To be fair, you know what? Today we've had, at least earlier we did, all of these coins were in the green apart from like a fair, like 2 of them. So like I know Seapool was about 10% up. Inge was about 3% up. But yeah. Alright, anyway, back to now. Just rejected from resistance. Looks like it's, if it goes down, this is going to be an order block. Got this trend line intact. This looks like a bear flag. Is it? Nah, this up here invalidated. But yeah, we've got resistance, resistance, flip to support, went back down, flip to resistance, probably gonna push lower. Still have this trend line intact. Structure is bearish, so we've got, so from here, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, lower low. So it broke it here. Lower high, so I wouldn't be surprised if I see this trend line broken. If we do have a substantial move down, this could be a valid short to take. Stops above resistance and aim for lower. Take profit at levels of support, which would be here, here, here. So I'd probably play it down to a 3-hour trade. If you have DCAs and they fill, your entry would probably go up to here. I'd DCA at this level, at this resistance line. That would go up to a 4-hour trade. Yeah, there's that. You can play off the trendline break. Once we flip it, close below, you can mark it long, or you mark it short. Pretty much put off the same trade to here. But yeah, altogether, yeah, I think it pushes much lower. Yeah, especially with this massive downwards trend. In terms of getting into longs, if you're looking in for that, long this to there. Lines up with the 786 fib. So if we get a move down, that's a valid long to take. If it moves down, fills this long, comes back up, this will be a valid short to take from this order block. Like I said, this short depends on how price action develops. If we close below this trend line and flip it, you can take that as a short. You could also go down here, so this would be a higher time frame order block. Though I'd probably take it from. It's a really small order block. Higher time frame over lower time frame, but that order block is just too wide for my liking. I don't want to be swing long in this coin. Though it's on a daily, so I guess we are swinging it. If I go on a lower time frame, you can see we might be resistant from the trend lines. This could be a start of a move down. Though this might have reclaimed the trend lines, so we could be seeing a push higher. Bounced from resistance and flipped it to resistance, most importantly. You can see even though on a lower time frame we've got bearish structure on this. Got an order block here, which you can long from. Aim for higher TPL levels of resistance. Have we got a fib? We've got the golden pocket lining up with it, so this is a valid long to take. In terms of shorts, we've got that there. I would have taken the short from this resistance. Stop loss somewhere above here. Aim for lower. If we lose this trend line, you can play off that. Stops above resistance for lower. Yeah, that's pretty much what I see on this coin. After this stream, what I'll do is I'll post all of these charts onto my channel and like a thread if I can get in there. But yeah, I think that sums up the stream. If you've got any questions, you can ask them now. If not, then I'll stop the recording.